We all know that North Myrtle Beach is the place to be if you want to experience our state dance, shag. And we all know that before 1968, the name North Myrtle Beach didn't even exist. But here are some facts I bet you didn't know.
When I first built it, it was real small. Half of it was a lounge and the other half was a restaurant. The restaurant part, it was hard to get it started, so we actually made like a grill out of it. We sold short order food mostly, and hamburgers and hot dogs and breakfasts. And it was on direct ocean front. And the other half, we made a lounge so we could do the afternoon business. And of course, we sold hamburgers and sandwiches over there when you had a cold beer. Back then, you couldn't sell liquor. Brown bagging came in later on. And that's the way it really started. It just kept getting bigger and bigger, and we kept adding on until we covered the whole lot. But the front part, when business picked up a little bit, we made an arcade out of the front part. So actually the front half was an arcade, and then you still had the restaurant and the lounge, and we had the tiki hut and what have you out on the ocean. But eventually we closed the whole thing in and made it a lounge. That's when they passed the law that you could serve mini bottles. Before then, everybody had to bring their own bottle, and you had to label it, and you could sell them chasers and ice, and you get 35 cents for a glass of ice and Coca-Cola for them to drink the drink with, you know. So that's the way it came about. It just kept getting bigger and bigger. And of course, I called Harold in Florida and said, come back home. So he came back. He was down there with his family working in construction. He stayed with me about a half a year, and he said, I won't end this, it's got to go. In the Marine Corps, we'd always dreamed of having a bar. And so we became partners, and he and I and my father, Pappy, Buddy, and Harold's Spanish Galleon. And it took off, and we became the biggest retailer in one of the top 5 in the country. At one time, we were selling more beer than all the chain stores put together, and we were doing it by the can, one at a time. 35 cents for a beer, and you had to open each one with an opener and make change.
When I was smaller, she used to go out, they used to pick cotton. And they would be going up to, she would call it the cotton farm. And they would go and stay like a week at a time and pick cotton, and they would stay, I say a week, could have been longer, but that's what they would do to make money to buy our school clothes. They would go stay and pick this cotton, and then they would take this money and go shopping and buy our school clothes and that kind of stuff. I remember that. And when they would go off to pick this cotton, the person that they would pick the cotton for would have this big old house, and a lot of folks, everybody that was picking the cotton would be living in this house, in this one big old house, and they would sleep on the floor. I'm glad that came to my mind. I just remember that. That's what they would do, and they would stay till they picked all the cotton, and then they would come back home. And sometimes I say it'll be a week or 2 weeks. So that's, that's another thing that she did when I remember when I was a small child.
We were able to find a house, and we lived on Ocean Boulevard. A lady lived there, Mrs. Harper. And she lived in the upstairs apartment. She wanted someone to live downstairs. And the rent was very reasonable. As a matter of fact, it was $50 a month. And that was a great part. And as soon as Labor Day was over with, you could get out on Ocean Boulevard, play Frisbee. You could do anything you wanted to. It didn't matter because nobody was going to be coming by. And but we lived there for a period of time, maybe close to 6 months. And at that time, they had a lot of rats on the boulevard. And this was an old house, and we had one. Wesley was our son. He was 2, and one morning we got up, and Wesley's shoes, little sandals. Everything was gone except the sole and the metal buckles and the buckle. And anyway, we found there was a big old hole behind the bathroom, in the bathroom, and behind the toilet. And anyway, it was about the size of a Coca-Cola bottle. And anyway, and we moved very shortly. And about that time, a friend of ours, Peggy Hersey, found us a house, and we bought a little house on 20th Avenue South.
And I didn't see that one, and I had never seen one. But we saw one run across the road. I saw one run across the road from they were always around dumpsters, and I think the city did a nice job of getting rid of them.
A lot of the people would go down there and they would shoot them, you know, with I guess some sort of strong pellet guns or something, you know, and they had, it was almost like a sport.
You might be interested to know that I live right across from McLean Park, which was nothing but a swamp when we moved there, on a tiny dirt road, because our house was built in 1957, and at that time it was just a tiny dirt road, and there was swamps and water and across the street from us, and my uncle used to worry about my boys over there in that swampy place. They had trails and everything. They loved to go over there and play, and as far as I knew, there was not much danger. They were very careful, but of course it was a snaky place and there was a lot of water. But by the time that McLean Park was developed, they were grown. But we have really enjoyed that park. I think it's been a great asset to North Myrtle Beach. There's always something going on over there. We've had weddings at night, or during the coldest weather in the summertime. There's always weddings going on over there. It's been fun to watch.
My mother used to make for a coal. She would go into the woods and get, or send us in the woods to get pine top, you know, pine. There was something called a Myrtle bush, something like that, some of that, or something in the field you would call rabbit tobacco. Now that may not have been the proper name, some holly. And she'd put these things in a pot and boil them. It would look just like regular tea. It would be like a green tea. And if she would want you to drink it without any sugar, but if she put sugar in it, you definitely would drink it, because in those days you didn't get your hands on much sugar, so anything sweet you would drink it. So that's what she would give us for a cold, you know. And then there was some old remedies. I can't remember the medicine she used to get. But you have to realize now that everything that you got on the farm, you raise yourself. And it was kind of like, I mean, I kind of learned this over the years, but it was kind of like an incubator, like it's like grits or meal or something. The fungus or whatever is already in it. All it needs is to get the right temperature, and it will hatch out. So the same thing with meat, pork meat, especially pork. Pork already had worms in it. And when it got to the right temperature, it would hatch. So, you know, your mother had to give you some medicine every spring to clear you out. They knew what to do to get rid of all of the whatever had built up over the winter. I mean, that's amazing. I don't really know how they knew how to do that.
When I was working those 12 years, almost 12 years, I'd knocked on doors. I'd go to your house at 1P, and then I'd go to Joe's down the street, or Aunt Sue's or Uncle Tom's. I'd knocked on doors, different doors, and tell them what I was doing, and delivering furniture and selling furniture to them. I did that for about 8 years, I guess, door to door. I went as far as Paul's Island on the south end, went as far as Supply on the north end, and inland as far as Tabor City and Conway and Loris. With a pickup truck with some rugs. I'd carry like 4 9x12 linoleums and some buckets and tubs and straight chairs on the truck with me, and then I sold and collected as I went every week. And I had that same debit every day.
They started fishing around September. I never heard that before. They had to call it the haul scene. Just pull them out, dump them onto the ground and pick them up and put them in boxes, and different ones come and buy some or give some, whatever they did. I enjoyed that. Well, I'd come down on Saturdays with my uncle, just they'd cook on the beach. And I'd enjoy coming down because the first haul, they call it a haul, get your haul of fish. You'd start cooking, and I was a small boy. I like to eat fish back then. I enjoyed that part, cooking, yeah. And people would, they say swordfish, but they pickle them down and they'd have enough big enough. Well, refrigerators and freezers won't plentiful like this now, because people would salt the fish down. I know you heard of that before, right? But they salted them. Had to put them in water and soak them out to eat the next day. Yeah, I like the fish now, but they already done away with that though. You can't. So many people be out here now. Back then, in the wintertime, whenever I was even late when they come, you could run down the highway out there 100 miles an hour, this fella say, because there wasn't nobody down here.
So as you can see, we're hard at work documenting history for the future North Myrtle Beach Area Historical Museum. And here's one more fact. We need you. Come join us in our effort to preserve North Myrtle Beach area history.